Hello everyone, it has been over 2 years, so we are going to get right into it. This is part 4, and we are going to be working towards adding a simple battle mechanism, or at least battle detection. So I want to quickly run the program, and this is what we have currently. We just got a guy walking around, but we want some Pokemon to be running around as well. So first thing I'm noticing is that we got this update left over to show that it's updating. So let's just, whoops, I'm a .NET developer, so you're probably going to see a lot of .NET code in here. Let's get rid of that update. Let's run it again. Make sure that it's giving us what we want. Okay, so before we get into making any big changes, I want to talk about the whole process of developing this game. And I'm not a game developer. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just writing code. The title of the channel is Bad Coding Habits, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's also kind of true. So if you're actually writing a game, don't really be following this. But this is kind of more for entertainment purposes. So what we're going to run into in this episode and in a lot of future episodes is, hey, we're going to have to refactor if this is growing. So that we're just going to have to run into that. And a lot of times, like in this episode, I'm going to just push it off and say, well, this isn't ideal. This feels wrong, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyways. So just be aware of that. Okay, we got lots to do in this. So what I want us to do is basically, as we're walking along, I want a probability that we might hit a Pokemon monster. So how we're going to do that is, and let's just quickly review our setup here. We have a main game loop here. Add a comment. So to do, eventually this needs to handle menus. This should handle menus at some point. Now in the game, there's this update. So let's go to that update method, which is right here. So this does the draw, it goes through all the objects and it renders them. It also handles the events. So handle events is where we're going to be doing some work this episode. So handle events. In handle events, the move event determines whether or not we actually can go where we want to go. This is checking if it's off the map. So check off map. I'm just going to add some comments here because it's probably going to be 5 years from my next video, and I don't want to be as lost as I am right now. And then, maybe rocks, or right now it's just water, but so basically we want to know if we returned, then the player has not moved, and we don't want any kind of battle check. We only want to check if you run into a Pokemon after the player has moved. So we're going to introduce a new variable. We'll call it player has moved. And again, this is like, is this correct? Probably not. It's probably not right, but it's going to work for this purposes. And again, later we can refactor if we need to. We're going to instantiate that with it being false, and every update we want that to go back to false as well, because if we don't set to false, then the first time he moves it will always be true. So where would be the best place for that? Probably we'll just set it here. Well, no, that's not going to work, because if we just set it there, then even if no input comes in, it's still going to be false. I don't really like it in handle event, so we're just going to stick it in update loop. First thing there. Player hasn't moved, false. Again, it's like, oh, this kind of code is hurting me inside. It's not good, but it's gonna work for now. So let's keep going. So now we have this variable in the game loop that the player has moved. In the update, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new method, and we're going to basically determine, I don't know, player actions. So like what if you walk into a door? Well, then if you walk into a door, you're going to load the building. It's going to go to a different map. But what in this video it's going to be, we are going to determine if a collision has occurred with a Pokemon to start the battle. So we're going to write that, determine player actions. This is not really, it should be player events. So I want to rename this. I'm going to try and make use of the refactor, and I'm going to rename. So that's Shift F6. I'm used to .NET, so this is new for me. So a little tip when you're learning an IDE, look up the shortcut key, but then don't actually click that. Just use the actual shortcut key. So instead of clicking that, I'm going to say, oh, okay, that's just Shift F6. So I'm going to go in here, Shift F6. So what did we? I had a good name just 2 seconds ago. Determine game events. I don't know. That's fine for now. And I am not used to, there we go. Sorry, I'm not used to this IDE at all. Okay, so now in this method, what we want to do is we want to get the current map tile that the, oh, we need an if statement here. If self dot player has moved, then we determine the game events. We don't do anything if the player hasn't moved. So we want the current map tile, so we'll just do a local variable here, map tile equals, it's going to be self dot player dot position. What is it going to be? So it's self.map, and then we get the player's position. I think it's 1 and this. So this should have the current map tile that the player is on. Let's test that out, and this should only get printed when the player moves. Let's give it a go. And we got an exception, so we just want to go to the last one here. And so it must be integers or slices. So what did I do wrong there? So something about this doesn't like it. Let's go to the player self.position 0 and 1. That looks fine to me. Shouldn't have to do any scale on that. This is live coding. You run into defects, which is okay. So let's just go back there. Is there something wrong with my syntax? Yeah, it's not a comma there, right? I think that's what I got wrong. I don't know why I wanted a comma there. was thinking it was a method. It's not a method. Self.map is an array, right? So there's 2 positions. Sorry about that. Like I said, it's been 2 years, so cut me a little bit of slack. All right, that looks better. Let's see if that works. Okay, so every time we go over grass, we get a G printed out. Cool. So we're going to stop here, and we are going to add in some road just for interest's sake. So again, we have this big map text file currently. So we're just going to add a road down there. And what do we have to change? We're going to need a new image. I have the images prepared. So we're using the top-down tank from Kenny. I'll try and link to that. Go to PNG, default size, and we kind of want a dirt road. Does he have a dirt road here? So he doesn't really have a dirt road. We'll just take sand for now. Does he have just gravel? Yeah, so we'll just take sand for now. That's fine. Obviously, you know, there might be a environment that is sand, in which case we'll have to update the roads, but this will be fine for now. So I actually want to copy that, put that in here. New name will be road. We're going to add it to Git. Okay, now we got to hunt down where that's actually getting used. So I don't like this string comparison here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my config file, and we're just going to make a couple new variables in here. So we'll do like map tile grass. Copy that and paste it 3 times. So then we're going to have water. And now our new one is going to be road. Save that. So then this we're going to replace with config dot. That was water, right? So that's cool. Okay, now we can do some logic on this map tile. We can say if map tile is equal to our new road. For now, we're just going to return. And again, this is all this kind of stuff. It's like, this should be refactored, but it's going to work for now. Then if map underscore tile equals well, actually, I think that's all we care. That's the only one we're not going to perform an action on now. So otherwise, we're going to, if he's on road, there's going to be no Pokemon battles. So otherwise, it's going to be basically, so self, a new method. I like the word determine, apparently. Determine Pokemon found. And we will pass it the map tile. So then we got to define that method. So basically, so the first thing we need is some kind of probability. So we are going to need a random number for that. So random number equals, and I do not know the library. So this is where we gotta look this up. So how to generate random number in Python in Google. And this is really a utility that we're probably going to have to use quite a bit. So let's go ahead and make a new file, and we'll call it utility. Utilities. And it should be a Python file. Let's rename that to .py. And then, okay, so we need from random import random, and then we also need seed because that makes it actually random each time. Then we want a method generate random number. So we call seed, I don't really understand what that does, and then we are going to return rand int. Oh, we actually need rand int instead of random. That's a specific library in Python for generating exactly what we need, which is random integers. So we're going to go 1 to 10. Okay, so are you happy now, IDE? Okay, so no squigglies, we're good. So this utility method is just going to give us a random number between 1 and 10. We should actually be passing that in. So range 1, range 2. Okay, now going back to our game method, we can basically set the probability based on this. So let's say we want to give it a 20% chance that you're going to hit a Pokemon. Well, then what we can do is say if random number is less than, okay, we actually need to import that new utilities. And now we can call that So we're going to put it between 1 and 10. Now we can just basically say if it's less than or equal to 2, which is 20% chance, now obviously we could adjust the percentage based on where they are. Maybe if we had rock type, maybe rock would be less likely to hit than grass, as an example. But for now, it'll just always be 20%. I don't need these in Python. And so we're going to say if random number is less than or equal to 2, which should be 20% chance, then we are going to call a factory to get back a Pokemon. So how are we going to do that? Well, now might be a good time for another folder. We'll keep that away from now. So we're going to have basically a monster class. And we are also going to have a monster factory. What is a factory? A factory is a pattern where instead of each time calling the constructor of monster.py, what we're going to do is call the monster factory. We're going to pass it in the type we want. In this example, it would be grass, and then that's going to create the monster for us. Pretty well-known pattern. So for now, we can just kind of copy this, throw it into our monster.py. So rename this to monster. We don't need X and Y positions, but we do need monster type. And then self dot health, just say 10. I don't even know what that means right now, and attack equals 10. So it's just quick numbers. We don't need an update method at this point. We don't need this. We don't need that. So that's all we have right now. Cool. Then in the monster factory, don't need any of that. So monster factory. We're just going to create one. Maybe we'll keep like a count of monsters generated. And we're going to make a method which is going to basically be create monster. And it's basically going to, it's also going to take in a type. And for now, all it's going to do is return monster. And we'll pass in the monster type. So this doesn't really give us anything yet, but eventually having this monster factory is going to be quite useful. So let's start calling some of this stuff. So if the 20% chance is hit, then we are going to, well, we should have a monster factory in our game. So we're going to say self.monster factory equals monster factory, but we're going to import that. And in our monster factory, we will say monster equals monster. We will increment the count. I forgot to do that. And then we will return monster. All right, we're almost ready to run again. So here we're generating our monster, and we're gonna say found monster equals self.monsterFactory.create monster, and we pass it the type, which is going to come from map tile for now. Okay, so what do we want to do with this monster? Well, for now, all we're going to do is print you found a monster. And we can print the type. And I never know how these strings in Python work, but we'll say found monster.monster type, which, self.type. We can print out the attack. And the health. So we hit an error. Let's go to that error. What is it complaining about? Key error R, which is road. So, right, so we don't have the map tile image mapped correctly. Where are we doing that? So we got to add another line in here for our newly added road. So can we change these? Config dot tile road. So this is an advantage of having it in our config versus having it just strings everywhere. Next time we want to update how our mappings in our map, we can just change it in one place. We don't need to change it all throughout the code. That's going to be our grass. So what image are we using? We are going to use image road for here. All right, now we'll let us run. Perfect. So here is our road. So on our road, we shouldn't be finding any monsters. Now let's see if our percentage worked, and let's see if we can find a monster on the grass. So I'm just looking at the output here. Nothing is showing up. Nothing. Okay, so something went wrong. Let's add in our breakpoint And that should tell us. So first we're going to find the place that we wanted breakpoint. That's going to be in our game. It's going to be up in those new methods that we added. So basically we can put a breakpoint there and then hit the debug. All right, so we moved. Our map tile is G, which is cool. So we can step in. What is step in? Step into is F7. And step over is F8. So we can step over that. What's the random number? 3. Okay, so that's fine. And that's all cool. As expected. Oops. So we just want to continue here. Just F9. All right, so let's, what I'm curious about now is what is exactly returning on this random number. So my next breakpoint is going to be here because this is all I care about. And F9 will continue to it. So a random number, if it's 3, then I'm starting to wonder if maybe we aren't seeding correctly. What is that? Looks like it's 3 again, based on that. So what I'm expecting is that every time we're going to be getting 3. Let's see if that's true. Yeah, so it's always 3. Okay, so something's going wrong in our generate random number. So I'm going to shift F6. Nope, not shift F6. I want to go to that implementation. What is the shortcut for that? We right click on it. We do go to implementation, Control Alt B. So seed 1, I don't know. So we might need to do a bit of research on how the random numbers actually work. Sometimes copying and pasting code works great, other times it doesn't. So I don't care about that anymore. My range is fine, I believe. It's just this seed that's not working. Okay, so sometimes you have to learn as you go. The seed, this is what is going to, yes, with the random numbers, not truly random, it's going to be using the seed value to determine the random number. We're always passing it 1, so we're always going to get the same random number. So I think we can call it without any parameters, and it's going to use the default, which is the system's date time, which is going to be perfect for us because that means every time we call it, it's going to be different as long as we always call this seed. So let's test that theory out and give it a go. Oop. So we did hit a Pokemon. So we hit an error, but we did hit the Pokemon. So that's good. So basically it's saying, okay, yeah, it's always this error for me. I think I have to call string on this int. Find that annoying, but it is what it is. And there we go. We found a monster. Found a couple. We can see that they're all grass type. Now if we're on the road, we will not find one. Okay, so now we've actually added the implementation for finding Pokemon. The next step would be to actually battle them. And that's going to require a new menu, a new game type. So that's going to be fun to do. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Reminder that all this code will be up on GitHub and links will be in the video description.